And now, here's Dialogue, a podcast with Gene Richard from Kbze 105.9 FM. Today's show is being sponsored by...
Our citizens will be given opportunities to be educated in crime prevention, life-saving techniques, and police services available to them. This is accomplished through neighborhood watch programs, school programs, and effective use of news and social media, along with citizen contact. Personal interaction between our citizens and the members of our police department is essential. The community must trust the police department as well as each individual member of law enforcement. Remember to vote Kevin Clement, Mayor, on November 8th.
Hello. I'm Thibodaux City Councilwoman Constance C. Johnson, and I'm running for re-election on Tuesday, November 8th, to continue serving the residents of District C. After the devastation of Hurricane Ida, I teamed up with Marsha Calvin Cooks, and we assessed the needs of the entire city of Thibodaux. We immediately opened a drive-through distribution site at the Moses Community Center. We also delivered hurricane relief items directly to the doors of residents. For many years, I have conducted quarterly residential meetings, distributed food and other essential items to needy residents, and toys to hundreds of children during the Christmas holidays. I will continue to be your voice all the time, and not just around every full-year election cycle. On Tuesday, November 8th, I humbly ask you to re-elect Constance C. Johnson to the Thibodaux City Council. Early voting will begin October 25th through November 1st. Let's continue moving District C forward and not return back to the good old boy politics. Paid for by Constance C. Johnson Campaign Fund.
We've got Miss Annette Fontana in the house this morning, Lafourche Parish Clerk of Court. We're out here in front of the historic courthouse. And who were you checking on here?
I was just, we have some trials going on, so I was just, I like to check in. I like to check in on the staff. I'm not somebody that likes to sit behind the desk. I like to be involved in what the staff is doing, so you can often find me all over the place, needless to say, in my office and just around making sure things are running smoothly. We have an ad hoc judge right now, so we like to make sure he's okay. He's our guest here in Lafourche, and
You taking good care of him?
we want to make a good impression on him. So,
Of course, we got an election coming up, Annette. I know you're busy with that.
that's correct. We have an election day. It's November 8th. We have early voting starting October 25th. It goes from Tuesday to Tuesday because it is a Tuesday election this year. I like to remind everybody that you might be working, so go ahead and early vote. We do have 3 early voting locations in Lafourche, which is a huge benefit to our citizens. We have, of course, downtown Thibodaux, the Registrar Voters Office. We have the Matthews Government Complex. We have a nice early voting site there for the Central Lafourche area. And then we have what's called a Biz Box. It's a mobile voting unit. We have that out at the Galliano Government Annex, which is where the South Lafourche Library was, which is where all our government offices were previously housed, of course, prior to the hurricane. They're still working on that building to get that up and running, but we do have a place for the citizens of South Lafourche to go ahead and exercise their right to vote. So I'd encourage everybody to vote. We have a really important election, important for our parish. We have a lot on the ballot. We have a U.S. Senator race. We have U.S. Representatives, 1st and 6th Congressional Districts. And locally here, we have a Court of Appeal judge race. That's not the trial court. That's the second layer, I guess. Put it simply to people, is if you don't like what a trial judge says, you come here and you can go to appeals court. You can appeal that judgment. We also have a district court, judge race. Judge John LeBlanc retired. We have a couple of candidates vying to get that judgeship, and there's a lot going on in our communities, and we need to have you need to make the right choice for judge that you want, and make your choice to lead, and make sure that our community is in good hands. We have school board district. I don't know if anybody watched the debate last night, or if they've just been watching what's going on. Is teacher raises, teacher pay is top of the list. And I think that all the candidates probably agreed to that last night. But we do have a school board race, and it's the first time we have a school board election since we reduced the size of the school board. So these school board members they're covering a larger area of constituents, and so that's really important because education leads to everything else.
Amen.
And so locally in the cities, City's got a lot going on.
Yep.
Mayor's race in Thibodaux.
Yep.
That's probably the race that people ask me about the most. We have a Council District C, City of Thibodaux, and Mayor of Lockport. Lockport is looking to, have a mayor's race, maybe have a new, have somebody new walk in. We have an interim mayor there. And then we have 8 constitutional amendments and 1 prop. So I encourage everybody to go take a look at those amendments before you go to the polls, because I know we get a lot of people that go in there and they like to read them, and sometimes they want to ask questions, and we can't help you with how you're voting on a particular subject. But we have 8 constitutional amendments, and so I recommend people go take a look at that. They can go to PAR, Louisiana. A lot of times they have a guide, a for and against guide. It sometimes helps people to understand, what we're looking at as far as voting.
I got to ask you before you leave, and I'm listening to you as you're talking about when, where, and how, and early voting and the whole bit. You're seeing nationwide talking about mail-in ballots. Mm-hmm. Now, I got to tell you, I don't know anything about mail-in ballots, and I'm going to ask a stupid question. Sure. Do we have mail-in ballots in the parish of Lafourche?
We do. We have absentee by mail ballots, and so, but to qualify to get an absentee by mail ballot, you have to qualify for that. So there's you have to be over a certain age. Maybe you're working. You are a college student, you live out of state, but you want to mail in your ballot. There's certain criteria.
You got to have some sort of reason that's got to fit.
There's a certain criteria, okay. And the registrar actually sends out a numbered, ballot to you, and we account for all those things. We don't have a significant percentage. Of course, during the last presidential election, because it was COVID, we had more than we had ever seen, ever, I think, in Lafourche. But we typically get the same amount, and it's not the percentage that really people think it is. It's a very, very, very small percentage. And the majority of them are, I find, from the elderly that maybe can't physically make it out to the polling location, and they still want to exercise their right to vote, and they follow they've done it, and they follow the directions to do it. I like to say they follow directions to do it, because you don't just mail it in and it's anonymous, that type of thing. You have to fill out an affidavit, you have to sign it, somebody has to witness it. There's a process to it, so it's a lot more than what people think, and there's a lot more accountability with the absentee by mail ballot.
So we don't have to be looking for the mail-in ballots in Lafourche Parish to maybe throw an election one way or the other.
Well, I mean, every vote counts. So I don't want to say it like that. Every vote counts. We've had a lot of close
every
races.
Absentee vote will be, every mail-in ballot will be accounted for.
Absolutely. We double check it, and we check how many went out. We check how many came back in. We check to make sure that the number that we checked in that came back in matches the number that we counted. There have been times that we have triple counted, double counted, accounted for things. It's a process, and we have a board that does it. So it's not just, it's a public meeting. The Board of Election Supervisors is there. They're responsible for that. It's myself as the clerk. It's Michael Boudreau as the Registrar of Voters. We have a Democratic representative, a Republican representative, and we have a governor's appointee. So we have a board, and then typically we have the candidates who send representatives to watch us do our work. So I like to tell people, come watch me do my work. I'm going to do the same thing every time. We're going to follow the election code, and that's just what we do. It's not sometimes what people make it out to be, but of course we're very transparent in what we do. So I like to say that we follow the election code, and anybody can come and watch us do our work.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to be with me this morning. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for coming by.
One other thing I would
absolutely go.
I would encourage people, because we did have redistricting, and we had a huge population shift to different areas. We've had a lot of growth on the west side of Thibodaux. I would encourage them to use the Go Vote app. On that app, they can check their voting location to make sure it hasn't changed. We've had a lot change after the hurricane and redistricting. The app can actually map them through Google Maps to exactly where they need to go if they're not sure of where the location is. But we have had some new locations. So I would encourage everybody to double check. They should have got a card in the mail, but a lot of times we don't look at that stuff, right? We just put it on the side. But use your Go Vote app. You can also pre-check your ballot walk in with your phone, know what selections you're making. It makes it so very, very easy. So I would encourage everybody to download the app. It's GEAUX Vote, and make it easy for yourself on Election Day.
You the girl, Annette Fontana, Lafourche Parish Clerk of Court. Thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate it very much, babe.
Thank you. Here's your number.
Oh, thanks.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you are testing your blood sugar 4 more times per day and injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call now and learn how to receive your new continuous glucose monitor at little or no out-of-pocket cost.
Hi, I am Dr. Patrice Robinson. I am a family nurse practitioner here at Shyen Hebert. We are here Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5 o'clock p.m. We have an array of services. We want to see you and your family here. We are still doing COVID testing here on site. We give results within 3 to 4 days. We also have primary care available here. We work in conjunction with behavioral health. We have a podiatrist on staff, and we just want to see you and your families here.
All right, let's switch gears again. I got in the house this morning. You know, most of you know, I can be pretty vocal at times, and I got a guy that sits on the other side of me that kind of keeps me straight. I'm going to call myself a conservative, and I'm going to say that Shyen Hebert, a guy that sits on the other side of me sometimes, he's on the other side. And I'll leave it at that. But Shyen, thanks for coming and helping me this morning. I really, really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Gene. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thibodaux. Good morning, Lafourche. I'm here to talk to Gene, and we're going to talk politics here in a moment. Of course, we're not going to get into it, he and I, but he's right. But that is what politics is. You have two sides, and you have the right to express your beliefs. So thank you for having me, Gene.
You bet. And before we get right into it, you know, Shyen, he and I always said this, and Annette was just on, and we were talking about voting. When majority rules, in this country, this is a democracy, this is a republic. The majority rules. And Shyen always had a good saying, you know, it's always fun when you're in the majority and you win. But the other side of that is you're in the minority and you lose. So in order to prevent that, you got to go vote. We got to make sure everybody votes. I don't care who you vote for. You can only vote one time, but come on out and vote for somebody, because without that, you can't get a true picture of elections. You know, we elected a Senate. There's a Senate seat in New Orleans that got elected with, was it 10 or 11% vote? Remember that?
Very light vote.
Very low. You know, don't let that happen. So come on out. And we're going to talk a little bit about right here in the city of Thibodaux. And right off the bat, I guess the first thing we can talk about is we got 2 judgeship races that we can talk about. And I'll let you, you kind of know the candidates a little bit. You got 2 races, who we got, where we got, and who they're running for.
Okay, Gene, we have a Court of Appeals race, which is throughout 5 parishes, including Lafourche and Terrebonne. The candidates are Mr. Steve Miller, who is from Lafourche Parish. He is a judge. And Mr. Tanner McGee, who is from Terrebonne Parish, and he is a state representative. As a matter of fact, he's president pro temp of the House of Representatives. That's an interesting race. We have also a judge's race here in Lafourche Parish for 17th Judicial District Court, Division A, which Judge LeBlanc retired, and we have to replace him. And in that race, we have Miss Heather Hendricks, who is an attorney. She is also an assistant district attorney here in Lafourche Parish. And you have Miss Rebecca Robichaud, who is also an attorney, and she is from Raceland. Those two races, Gene, I get involved and I'm out there and I'm talking to people, and those two races in itself are confusing. People right now confuse the division judges race and the appellate court race because these are all people that are known that are running. Some people that I've spoken to think that one of the ladies running for Division A is also involved in the appellate court race, which is not. No. I've asked people. I'm involved with one particular candidate, which I'm not going to say, but I've asked people to vote for that candidate, and the first thing they ask me, she's not running against Mr. Miller, huh? No, that's two separate races. You also have a senator's race, a United States senator's race going on. Mr. John Kennedy is the incumbent. He's got a whole slew of them running against him. That's probably the only race that's going to wind up in the second primary. You have some rep races. Mr. Steve Scalise, a United States congressman, he's got a few people running against him. He represents the lower part of Lafourche and part of Thibodaux and Parish. Then you have Mr. Garrett Graves. He represents the upper part. He's the United States congressman, and he has a few people running. But the biggest thing that I would like to bring out is people go vote.
Amen.
Go vote.
Amen.
Your vote counts. I have my beliefs, you have your beliefs, but everyone needs to go vote. This is going to be on a Tuesday, and a lot of people are not really going to go vote, so you need to go vote. And Gene and Miss Annette were talking about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots mostly now are going to elderly people. I had registered for it. I got a few times, and I got out of it. I'd rather go vote. And when I did get them in the mail, my wife and I went to the clerk's office, to the Registrar of Voters on early voting, turned that in and voted in the machine. But there's a neighbor of mine that gets it, and he fills it out and brings it to me to witness it. And you witness it the outside, you sign your name, but you don't know what's inside of it. You don't see it. So people have a right to vote. Whichever way you decide to vote, man, go vote. And the city of Thibodaux, the mayor's race is including Mr. Kevin Clemmer, who is a member of the existing mayor's staff. And then you have Miss Sandy Holloway, who is on the Kbze board. Both of them are running for mayor in Thibodaux. And then you have a council race. Council race is Miss Constance Williams Constance Johnson, and Mr. Val Taylor. So pick your candidates, go vote, please. Go vote, man.
Thank you, Shyen, for giving us all that good information. Listeners, and, it's kind of like Annette said, this is going to be a Tuesday vote. Lots of us are going to be working, and I can't reiterate it enough. Get out and vote. Use the early voting. If you have to, go vote on the day. I'm going to vote the day of because I'm kind of semi-retired and I can do it. But Annette was giving me some numbers, and I'm just going to look at this, and it's a little bit even less than what I thought. I think if we could get probably 6,000 or 7,000 people in the city to vote, I think we'd be doing good. And if we could get and I'm dreaming, but if we could get a 50% turnout on that, we would be excellent. But these Tuesday races, normally we're in the 41, 42, 43 percentile. But as Shyen said, and as Annette said, we got some some great races. We got the school board. We've got a councilmanic race here. We've got a mayor's race. We've got state representatives. We got judgeships, the whole bit. So, man, get majority rules. Get out there and cast that vote. Shyen, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to also talk about this early voting, Gene. That has changed the whole way of running for office, because early voting can make the difference in whether you win or not. So candidates are going to try to get people to go vote in their favor early. The more people that vote early, the more possibility that the early vote can really turn an election. So in our day, Gene, it was contact with people running. Nowadays, it's media, it's internet, it's Facebook. It's a different world. I'd rather run in our world, but this is what we got to run in today.
Well, when you look at you and I talked about that before. When you look at politics the way it used to be versus politics the way it is now, man, we're talking about two different animals. Exactly. Candidates today, when you talk about early voting, just like you did, you got to be ready to go with your last bit of effort 2 and 3 and 4 weeks ahead of Election Day. Yes. Yes. The surprises that come out now on the Friday before the Saturday and the Monday before the Tuesday are no more. They're gone. So the whole face has changed. But listeners, that doesn't stop you from voting. So get out there and vote.
Also we're talking about early voting starting on the 25th and ending on the 1st. People have already voted. These mail-in ballots, people have already voted. And if you do that early and something happens in between, oh well. So if you want to early vote, that's fine. If you want to go to the box and vote, that's fine too. But just go vote. Thank you.
Hey, my cohort in crime, Shyen Hebert, thanks for being with me this morning. You're welcome. Great show. Listeners, let me tell you, this is a trial effort for us. Thank you for listening. I hope to do more. We had fun. You don't need we just made a living state, but you don't need an office. It's a lot of fun out here, man. I gotta tell you, Mr. Howard.
People in Thibodaux talking out there.
That's right. And we got Mr. Howard Castay here, of course, with us, and was nice enough to do this, and we really, really appreciate that. So, looking forward to doing more. Listeners, enjoyed it. Fun being out here on the radio again, and we'll see you soon here in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Suicide is a leading cause of preventable death in the United States. Knowing 3 simple digits, 988, can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
Well, hey, everybody, your old friend is back, and I'm keeping up with technology. Hello, friends, it's Gene Richard, inviting you to join me for Dialogue, a video and audio podcast presented by Kbze 105.9 FM. Look for the podcast on my Facebook page, on the Kbze YouTube page, and on the Thibodaux Now Facebook page. The audio podcast will be available on these social media apps, Podbean, and TuneIn. Stay up to date with Thibodaux News on Dialogue, the podcast. We're going to change it up once a week and hopefully more as it grows in viewer and listenership.